you think about Erika Kirk?
Erika Kirk?
Oh. What do you think about Erika Kirk?
Would I get sued?
Throw it in the pile. Oh, of course you will.
I don't want to say anything that's controversial. She did it, but I don't. She was on it.
I have an amazing girlfriend. She's spectacular.
Is she in politics?
Not really, no.
What can you tell us about her?
She's
what
beautiful.
Would you be willing?
She's reverent.
She's a reverend? I didn't know this about her.
She's reverent.
Oh. I was like, wait, this is new. I don't know if we'll want to keep that or not.
Oh, you better keep it.
What's an example? What do you mean?
She's prayerful. She believes in God. She's a great person. She believes in other people. She always thinks of other people before herself. She's very fun. And honestly, I'm so blessed to be able to have her.
So here's the question that has everyone's mind spinning right now. Is this really how a widow typically behaves after a sudden and devastating loss? Or is there something deeper unfolding behind the scenes? Stay with me, because what comes next may completely change how you look at this situation. Let's break this down step by step. First, some context that viewers online keep returning to. Before meeting Charlie Kirk, Erika Kirk had past relationships that were later downplayed or omitted in public storytelling. One name that resurfaced repeatedly is Tyler Massey, whom Erika was publicly linked to around 2015. Photos from that period show them attending events together, including fashion-related appearances in Phoenix.
Candace Owens has released the call Erika Kirk made just 11 days after Charlie was gone, and it gets pretty disturbing. Then she shows this 5-minute clip of Erika Kirk smiling and laughing only 5 days after the loss of Charlie.
Oh, look at all the thumbs up. Look how cute that is. Sorry, this is a little bit more informal than probably Charlie would be reacting. How sweet. I didn't know they could do that. I hate Zoom. I never liked Zoom. Sorry, you guys.
Captions from designers at the time even referred to them as a cute couple. None of this is illegal or unusual, but it directly conflicts with later claims that Erika had no serious relationships for years prior to meeting Charlie. And that contradiction is what sparked renewed scrutiny. Now let's talk about Charlie himself. Charlie was undeniably a major figure in conservative circles, young, driven, and outspoken. As the founder of Turning Point USA, he spent years debating, organizing, and building influence across college campuses nationwide.
So another boyfriend, his name is Tyler Massey, and she dated him in 2015. Here we have them doing Fashion Week in Phoenix together. And in the caption to this photo posted by Jack Nicole, so Jack Nicole was the designer of Erika's outfit, hashtag this photo cute couple. And here's some more photos that were posted.
Supporters admired his energy. Critics challenged his views, but few denied his determination. This is where many viewers say the situation took a strange turn. Erika appeared on camera very shortly after Charlie's passing. And to be clear, no one gets to dictate how another person grieves.
So Erika Kirk actually had 2 boyfriends within the 5 years before meeting Charlie Kirk. So why lie about this?
People process loss in different ways. That's reality. But as clips and interviews circulated, a number of viewers said something about the tone felt off. It wasn't just anonymous commenters saying this. Joe Rogan, known for openly questioning official narratives, publicly discussed the situation on his podcast. He didn't focus on emotion. He focused on logic, timelines, and inconsistencies. His takeaway was simple. Parts of the story didn't add up to him. Joe questioned how certain details were presented, how information emerged, and why some aspects felt contradictory. His broader point wasn't an accusation, it was skepticism.
Arizona, I love Donald Trump. Can I be involved? I'm like, absolutely. So I met her, and I was like, we've got to put her behind the president. So I had my family behind the president, my grandpa, who just passed away just a few months ago.
He argued that when a situation contains too many oddly convenient details, people naturally begin to doubt whether the full picture has been presented. He made an observation that resonated widely online. When narratives become overly complicated, filled with confusing or conflicting elements, public trust erodes. Not because of one detail, but because of the overall pattern. As debates around the incident intensified, another shift happened.
Analyst, come on down. Phoenix, Erika Franzwey. Scottsdale, Caitlin Willenship. That means your new Miss Arizona USA 2012. And now let's hear it for South Phoenix. Congratulations, Erika Franzway, and happy birthday, Erika Franzway.
While people argued over official explanations, attention slowly drifted elsewhere, toward Erika herself. Online viewers began revisiting older footage, interviews, and appearances. Some noticed stark differences between Erika's past public persona and the image she later promoted. Earlier clips show her confident, expressive, and very comfortable in the spotlight. Later messaging emphasized modesty, restraint, and a carefully curated identity.
Fixing my... Got a little bacon. Babe, that's deep in there. Give them a cleavage. People want cleavage. Showcase it. Sells. That's me. So it's not within the confines of marriage.
Again, people are allowed to change. Growth is normal. Rebranding happens. But when the transformation feels abrupt and accompanied by rewritten timelines, people start asking why. That's where body language analysis entered the conversation. Several commentators claiming expertise began comparing Erika's public behavior with commonly observed grief responses.
Lived out here. I was here for 5 years. I never dated here because I saw vicariously through my roommate how terrible it was. Somehow getting drinks was the replacement of having coffee and breakfast. I personally would rather have coffee or brunch with someone than go, I don't drink. I find it.
Their conclusions vary widely, and none of it is definitive. But the conversation gained traction. Some online have even started using the phrase the happy widow, not as a diagnosis, but as a reflection of how her demeanor is being perceived by critics. Supporters strongly reject that framing. Critics argue it's about optics, not emotion. What's undeniable is this: the focus has shifted. While public debate swirls around conflicting explanations of events, Erika's behavior, messaging, and visibility have become a central point of attention. Media appearances, promotional activity, carefully controlled narratives, and that's where many viewers say their perspective changed. Because while people argued over what happened, they began asking a different question altogether. Not what happened, but who benefits from how the story is being told. That's why this conversation hasn't slowed down. Not because of a single clip, not because of one podcast, but because the more people look, the more unresolved gaps they believe they see. And as more material resurfaces, one thing is clear. This story is no longer just about an event. It's about perception, narrative control, and trust. And that's exactly why people are still watching so closely. For most people, the days following a sudden loss look very similar. You can't sleep. You can barely eat. Your thoughts feel scattered, unfocused, and heavy. That's the kind of response many viewers instinctively expect to see when someone is processing deep shock and grief. But according to online reactions, that's not how Erika Kirk appeared in the days that followed Charlie Kirk's passing. Just days later, Erika appeared on camera at Turning Point USA headquarters. And this specific moment is what many viewers say ignited the controversy that has since spread across social platforms. People watching closely pointed out her demeanor. She was smiling, not a restrained or solemn expression, but a broad, energetic smile.
Yeah, we went to Maggiano's. I picked her up. It was raining, kind of different night in Arizona, and picked her up at her house and later met her mom on the first night.
It's a big deal for the
Exciting
first night.
stuff. Yeah, I'm not trying to scare her off.
In the footage, she proudly showed Charlie's Medal of Freedom to staff members and spoke enthusiastically about legacy, purpose, and the future of the organization. The tone in the room felt upbeat, motivational, even celebratory to some observers. Now, it's important to say this clearly. People process grief differently. There is no single correct way to respond to loss. Psychology recognizes a wide range of emotional responses, and no one should be policed for how they feel. But when viewers compared this footage to what they typically associate with early-stage grief, many felt the contrast was striking. One comment on the clip went viral, gaining millions of views. It said, "Everyone grieves differently, but no one grieves like this." That line resonated with thousands of viewers and became a shorthand for what many were struggling to articulate. And that moment didn't exist in isolation.
She actually never lived there. They said that she simply visited for 2 weeks, like a tourist, just to visit the Great Wall and perhaps see other monuments.
More footage surfaced. When viewers began examining everything together, patterns started to emerge that made people increasingly uneasy. One additional clip that circulated showed Erika arriving at a gathering in a vehicle, visibly emotional. On the surface, it appeared to be a moment of sorrow. But once people slowed the footage down and rewatched it closely, critics began questioning whether the emotion felt genuine or performed. Comments flooded in. Some viewers described the crying as exaggerated. Others compared it to acting rather than spontaneous emotion. Words like forced and theatrical appeared repeatedly in comment sections. To be clear, these are opinions, not diagnoses or facts. But when large numbers of people independently describe the same discomfort, it becomes part of the public conversation.
Everyone.
This is ridiculous.
Hey, also
This straw,
really
yeah.
straws.
Okay, that's good.
You're a bright light in a very dark place.
So let's go grab a mojito. Totally attracted to it. Can I get your number?
Many viewers said they couldn't pinpoint exactly what felt wrong, only that their instincts were telling them something didn't align. The timing, the tone, the rapid shift between highly emotional and highly energized moments. At this point, even critics pause to ask a fair question. What if this really is just how Erika processes grief? What if everyone else is projecting expectations onto her unfairly? So people began making comparisons, not to judge, but to contextualize. One comparison that frequently came up online involved Vanessa Bryant, who experienced an unimaginable loss years earlier. After that tragedy, Vanessa largely stepped away from the public eye. When she did eventually appear, viewers noted how visibly raw and heavy her emotions were. People weren't saying one response is right and the other is wrong. They were saying the contrast felt impossible to ignore. Side-by-side clips circulated online.
Point, just career-wise to be able to take on this type of endeavor. And I feel like I have something very unique to offer this whole experience in general. Like I said, I'm very coachable, I'm very trainable. And I'm the type of person that I don't need all the time.
On one side, a widow barely able to speak through grief. On the other, a widow discussing future plans, opportunities, and organizational growth with visible excitement. That contrast is when a harsh term began circulating online, the happy widow. It's a phrase many people find uncomfortable, even cruel. And supporters argue it's unfair and insensitive. But critics say it reflects how Erika's public demeanor is being perceived, not how she necessarily feels privately. And that's where the controversy really solidified. Because this conversation isn't about judging emotions anymore. It's about optics, messaging, and public trust. Whether people agree with the criticism or not, one thing is undeniable. These clips changed how many viewers see the situation. And once that shift happened, the scrutiny only intensified. That's why this story hasn't faded. Not because of one video, not because of one comment, but because the pattern, taken as a whole, left many people feeling unsettled. And until those concerns are addressed clearly, the conversation isn't going anywhere. Absolutely. People process grief in completely different ways, and that's valid. There isn't one correct way to respond after a devastating loss. But what's been bothering a lot of viewers isn't simply that Erika Kirk is grieving differently. It's that, in several public clips, she appears unusually energized and forward-focused at a time when many people would expect someone to look weighed down. To critics, the issue isn't one moment. It's the overall tone across multiple appearances. They say they don't see much heaviness, hesitation, or visible strain. Instead, they see confidence, momentum, and a readiness to move into the next phase. Now, stepping into a major leadership role after a personal tragedy is an enormous responsibility. For most people, that would be emotionally exhausting. Many would approach it with a solemn sense of duty, or at least a visible mix of overwhelm and caution. But in the interviews that circulated, viewers say Erika sounded excited about continuing the mission and stepping into the role. In some clips, she even uses words like excited and blessed, describing new opportunities and future plans. To her supporters, that can be interpreted as resilience, someone trying to keep going and hold things together. To critics, it can feel jarring, like the energy doesn't match what they expect from someone navigating early grief. That disconnect is what fueled the conversation online. On platforms like TikTok, people began creating compilations focusing on tone, phrasing, and body language. The clips were slowed down and compared across interviews, and the debate got louder. Is this just a unique way of coping, or does it feel more like someone stepping confidently into a promotion? Then another point sparked even more discussion. In one segment, Erika talked about continuing to use Charlie's social media presence going forward, keeping content active and preserving his voice online. On the surface, that can sound like a tribute, keeping memories alive, keeping his message going. But critics questioned whether using a late person's platforms can cross into uncomfortable territory. They asked, is it honoring a legacy, or does it risk feeling like a brand strategy? Again, there's no single right answer, but it became another flashpoint because it touches on authenticity, intention, and optics. At this stage, it's important to keep the framing honest. None of these online reactions prove anything. They reflect perception, not facts. That's why some commentators started bringing in analysis, not as proof, but as interpretation. Online creators who claim expertise in communication or nonverbal cues began offering their opinions about what certain expressions might suggest. But here's the problem. Body language is not a reliable lie detector, and isolated clips can't reveal someone's internal emotional state with certainty. People smile under stress. People appear composed while falling apart privately. Public-facing moments can be rehearsed or simply an attempt to stay functional. What is true is that Erika's public presentation has become a central focus of the story. Not because it proves wrongdoing, but because it affects trust. When audiences feel a disconnect between what they expect and what they see, scrutiny intensifies. And that's where things stand right now. Some viewers interpret Erika's tone as strength and duty. Others interpret it as oddly strategic and overly polished. The divide keeps growing because each new clip reinforces whichever interpretation people already lean toward. So the real takeaway isn't a verdict, it's a question. Are people reacting to grief that doesn't look the way they expect? Or are they reacting to a pattern of messaging that feels too controlled? That's what keeps the conversation going. A lot of viewers online are now pointing to expert commentary as validation for what they say they felt instinctively from the beginning. That Erika's public tone doesn't match what they personally associate with early-stage grief. But it's important to be fair and clear. No analysis of facial expressions or body language can prove what someone is feeling inside. At best, it offers interpretation, and interpretation can be wrong, especially when it's based on selective clips, edited footage, and high-pressure public appearances. Still, the discussion has continued to grow because more than one commentator has weighed in on the same set of moments, especially the idea Erika mentioned about keeping Charlie's online presence active going forward. In multiple clips, Erika discussed continuing his message digitally and maintaining his voice online. Supporters describe that as a tribute, a way to preserve a legacy. Critics, however, say it feels uncomfortable because it raises the question, is this about honoring someone's memory or about maintaining reach and influence? That debate is one of the biggest reasons this story keeps spreading. Now, beyond expert takes, the most influential part of this conversation has actually been everyday viewers breaking down public clips in detail. Not because they're professionals, but because people rewatch these moments repeatedly, compare interviews, and look for consistency. One widely shared breakdown focused on the production style of a public memorial gathering. Some viewers said the dramatic staging and high-energy atmosphere felt out of place for what they expected from a solemn event. Others argued that large public tributes are often produced that way, and that it doesn't reflect on Erika personally. Then came the part that really divided people. Critics began scrutinizing emotional moments frame by frame, arguing that the performance felt too timed to the music or the camera. Supporters pushed back hard, saying this kind of analysis is unfair, invasive, and impossible to validate. Because grief doesn't always look the way people expect, especially in public. And honestly, both sides have a point. There are valid reasons why someone might appear composed on camera even if they're struggling privately. There are also valid reasons why audiences react strongly when a public figure's tone feels inconsistent across different appearances. That's what keeps the argument alive, perception versus intention. And that's where this returns to the bigger theme raised by Joe Rogan, not as proof, but as a lens some viewers are using to interpret the chaos around the entire story. Joe's broader point, as listeners describe it, is that when public narratives become overloaded with contradictions, the average person stops trusting that clarity will ever arrive. People argue in circles. Conflicting details dominate the discussion, and the core questions get buried under endless noise. To be clear, that doesn't automatically mean there's a hidden plot. Sometimes stories get messy because humans are messy, communication is messy, and institutions release information in ways that feel incomplete. But Joe's perspective resonates with audiences because it explains why so many people feel stuck. The more confusing the story becomes, the harder it is for anyone to feel confident they understand what really happened. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a set of unresolved questions that viewers keep circling back to. Is Erika simply grieving in a way that doesn't match what people expect? Is she trying to stay strong publicly while processing privately? Is she stepping into leadership mode because she feels she has to? Or is the public reacting to a pattern of messaging that feels overly polished? No one watching online can know her internal reality. And it's important not to turn speculation into certainty, but it's also understandable why the public keeps asking questions when major moments feel emotionally and visually inconsistent to them. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think is going on here? Do you believe this is just an unusual grief response under intense public pressure? Or do you think the messaging and optics raise real concerns? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this breakdown made you think, make sure to like the video, share it with someone following this story, and subscribe Behind the Fame Chanel so you don't miss the next deep dive. As always, I'll see you in the next video.